Hamzah Sheeraz defeats Edgar Berlanga, and this fight to me was quite simply lost psychologically. I mean, Dakota has a point. Dakota always has a point. Dakota's a smart guy. That's why he's my co-host. That's why he's the brains of the operation here at Lukie Entertainment, or whatever we want to fictionally call this thing. He's good. Like, Sheeraz is good. He punches hard. With Andy Lee, he's I wouldn't say improved, but he's having nuances, because that kind of diminishes other coaches. He has more nuance. He's thinking. He's setting up shots. He's looking for shots. People are talking about Kronk style, but it's not just a Kronk style. It's like he's using distance and feints and timing, conditioning. Andy Lee's becoming one of the best coaches in boxing. It's really neat because he was one of my favorite fighters on the come up. You know, you got now a arms race for who's the best coach in boxing in 2025, Andy Lee, Bozy Ennis, or Rudy Hernandez. They're all really good, and they all have different styles. I think that's pretty cool when you have an era like that. Back to the subject at hand, Berlanga's the polarizing figure here, because Berlanga is one of these young fighters who's from the social media era. So like 10 years ago, how old would he have been? Probably like 17 maybe. Instagram was just getting going. People were learning how to get a lot of followers 13 years ago, 14 years ago, get the algorithm going. This is someone who's basically grown up with a cell phone and a social media platform around him for most of his life. And I think that as we go for the next 5 years, fighters in this situation will have a track record and a history of what to look at. But there is a unique human perspective here, because a lot of people are doing a stupid assessment, in my opinion, where they're going, okay, Berlanga 16 knockouts, that was all manufactured. They got 16 first-round knockouts. No, there was something real there, because Berlanga believed in his power and he could hit really hard. The problem was he had a lot of confidence and momentum, but he wasn't adding on to his skill set while he was getting those knockouts. So those were developmental fights where you're trying to build your skill set. And he was just doing too good of a job early on in his career. He didn't get those developmental fights. And then when he got the guys like Steve Rolls, that's a high-level developmental fight that turned difficult because, well, one, I think he had lost his confidence to a certain degree after some hard fights. But two, he was having to learn on the job things he didn't learn in those early undercard fights, getting first-round knockouts. That being said, we look at everything and all that. Berlanga made this fight harder because of trash talk. He made this fight harder with the antics with De La Hoya. When you fight a guy like Sheeraz, and when you're Sheeraz, when you fight a guy like Berlanga, it's going to be a hard fight. You're going to more than likely take a shot that hurts. You're going to be sore. Like, when you fight these top guys, you're not leaving without a souvenir. And by a souvenir, I mean a black eye. So, it's not easy. It's not easy, bro. But when he started engaging in trash talk and the antics, and I get it, right? You're doing it because the social media platforms like braggadocious. They like risk takers. They like people that say wild things. I'm never going to be Mr. Social Media because I don't say crazy outlandish things or stuff on YouTube. I try to be reasonable. And you never see someone go, oh man, look at this viral moment of this guy saying something reasonable. So to a certain extent, if you grow up with social media, I get why you say outlandish stuff, because that gets you going and, you know, it gets your following. And they tell me about with social media, there's these viral moments and it creates surge in followers. You get 10K followers with a viral moment, and then you're chasing this viral stuff to grow your brand, right? It's kind of like chasing the dragon. You're chasing this feeling. And I think that's a dangerous element to be combined with. I know you might be like, where are you going with this? But with Berlanga, he's got all this trash talk going. He's fighting a real guy, tons of pressure, talking through it, big puncher, heavy hitter, gets dropped pretty early in the fight. And he had to ask himself difficult questions. And in this fight, he couldn't answer those difficult questions. And some of that is not being battle tested to a certain level at this stage. But to another extent, there's a level of humility. You have to get to that next level. And I think that for Berlanga, this fight brings up a huge question for me about him. Is money his biggest motivating factor? Is fame his biggest motivating factor? Or does he want to be a world champion? I'm not sure being a world champion matters to him. Like with him and Ryan Garcia, I'm not seeing that the belts matter that much. And I think it's hard to be a pro fighter and just do it for money. Because being like a financial consultant makes a lot of money and you don't have to take the punches. And at a certain point, your body's just going to be like, dude, this sucks. So yeah, the money's great, but the money isn't enough of a motivator. I know that might sound crazy to someone that's working a 9 to 5 and they feel like they're not getting paid a fair shake, but it's not enough to drive you. And with Sheeraz, I saw someone that was motivated and wanting to be a belt holder, someone that wants to be the best in the division. And it looked like in this fight, when Sheeraz started doing his stuff, there was a skill set thing. That he had a different level of ability in the ring compared to Berlanga, but Berlanga had the power. But when Berlanga's power got neutralized, there really wasn't an adjustment I saw. So for Sheeraz, we might have just seen the birth of a star, the birth of a top guy in the division, a compelling figure, a guy that I said might be the best middleweight, and then he had a very average performance with Adames where I started to question everything about him. Well, now he comes back and has a sensational performance back in the mix. And with Berlanga, he had that great run, then went all the way through the pandemic. And then after the pandemic, we haven't seen that guy. We haven't seen that guy since like 2021, basically. We haven't seen that guy since Damon Nicholson. And we got to wonder, is that guy going to come back? And these type of moments, right, they can eat at you, but I still see the great fighter in Berlanga. It's just, how does he want to come back? And I think his key to victory to come back is humility. He has to just learn from the loss, maybe be a little bit more humble, and that might be the key. But I think this is a moment where Berlanga has a ton of potential. A ton of stuff could go right for him in his career. It just comes down to what he wants from the sport, and I don't know.